Ellie, Ellie, take a look up at mom. Hello. So, this is my November garden tour. And I think it's appropriate to start with my garden assistant, Ellie. She is a 4-month-old cockapoo puppy who hasn't been so much of an assistant as she loves to be in the garden. Can you sit, Ellie? I love that face. Can Ellie sit for mom? Go ahead. She's not going to do it now. Ellie, sit. Sit, girl. Good girl. Say hi to everybody. This is my little sweetie. Yes. So as you know, I like to start my garden tour by just scanning my backyard. And this is the very last days of November. And so there's not a lot of blooming going on. I do have blooms, but there certainly is a lot of green and a lot of nice things yet this second to last day of November. So you're going to have to forgive me because I've got my pooch out with me today. And she likes to go all over. Ellie loves gardening and she loves all the smells. But one thing I would like to do is just kind of scan around and show you some of the different spots. So let's go over this way. And this area is what I like to call my tree bed. And that's because there used to be a maple tree here. And I have lantana and salvia predominantly, and then a cufia in here also. So when I come around to the front, certainly I've lost leaves on the lantana, and the Greg's Mist flower is flowering just a little bit, not a lot. The lantana's flowering also, as you can see down here. You know, I did have butterflies today. It's supposed to get cold again tonight, but I did have Gulf fritillaries today, and they are landing on my flowers. That's why it's important to me to have flowers that are blooming all throughout my seasons, if at all possible. You'll notice the Amistad salvia is starting to come back, and so is my Amante on the other side. The Cufia is still blooming, which is my cigar plant, is still blooming. And I have two hummingbirds. I've got a buff belly hummingbird and a female ruby-throated hummingbird. And so they visit my yard every day. And as I come on over, I've got a little bit of a bloom on on the butterfly bush, but I'm also getting a few blooms on my native plants. So the few blooms that I have here on this flame acanthus is visited by my hummingbirds each day, and I love that it's blooming again here. So as I look down this way, this is what I call the trellis bed. And I'm on the back side of it here. And the reason I call it the trellis bed is because I have 5 trellises set up all along this bed. It is a raised garden bed, and I have a few other things in the bed also, but it is predominantly for my passion vine. And I have talked about this passion vine And I have two different types of passion vine here. I've got this native, which is a cotton leaf passion vine. And then I've got this hybrid, which is called incense. So I just love this. And it has changed a little bit during the year because I did have Tithonia over on this other end. But I just love the expanse that I have and how much life it does support. So as I come down, one of the things I had mentioned, I think in a prior video, is I've got a Gabrera daisy here. I've got Gabreras that along the front of this bed that will bloom in the spring, and I just love seeing them pop up. But I've got one that's bloomed here. That is so fun. And of course I have Flamacanthus all along here as I pan down, and it is blooming a little bit, not a lot. So one thing that I've noticed in my tree bed is my Amante Salvia and a little bit of the Amistad, not a lot, but a little bit, is coming up from the roots. I love that. And I had talked earlier that I had made a mistake and had not cut it back because it bloomed all year long for me. And this pink is the Amante Salvia. And of course, pollinators just love this. So I also have a little bit of Salvia leucantha also blooming. And so even though I have just little blooms here and there, the pollinators that are out just really appreciate this. And every morning I have my hummingbirds here visiting every single day. Okay, so now I am going to pan this way. So I've got my red porterweed, and look at this volunteer Tithonia. Gorgeous. So I had mentioned this Tithonia self-seeded itself, and it has also been a wonderful thing to have this fall. So I've made a mental note of this, that I want to start this in the late summer to be sure that I do have Tithonia, because the butterflies are on here. The migrating monarchs were on here, and my butterflies that I have, especially the Gulf fritillaries, because of all the passion vine that I have in the yard, they've loved being on this Tithonia. Back in my little south nook, you can see that things are starting to thin out, and it is starting to show fall, but I do have a few blooms. So my Lo and Behold butterfly bush is blooming. I've got a few blooms on my trailing lavender lantana, which is planted in ground. I love how my Kufia or cigar plant over here is blooming. And then of course I've got the stray blooms here and there from my porterweed. So when I look in the back, my gorgeous firebush is still blooming very well. And also my Cape honeysuckle. It's just blooming and blooming back there. Some new blooms are starting to form. There we go. But everything is showing that it's feeling some of the effects of the cooler weather that we've been having. It's certainly a nice time of year, but it's kind of sad to see the garden start to show the season and diminish. So now on my tropical hibiscus, my pinks, I did a community post in that my pink hibiscus have just been blooming these beautiful neon pink colors, which is very unusual. Typically it's a very light pink. I love it. And then over here my yellow has been blooming orange, a light orange, but still it's pretty cool. And you'll have to forgive me as I've got my assistant out with me, and she's been kind of a little stinker. And then of course my azalea, this Encore azalea, has just been blooming, probably the most I've ever seen it bloom, which is very unusual. Okay, I'm going to go over now to a couple of vines. This is one of my bird feeding stations. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this just tickles me. This is a Gulf fritillary. Okay, come on, let's get in here. Are you going to, there. This is a Gulf fritillary caterpillar. And he has crawled all the way over from here, from the passion vines. Too fun. Okay, I have to show you this. Ellie, look at Mom. This is what my garden assistant loves to do. She loves to find sticks and carry them. Oh, what a pooch. So my Mexican flame vine that I have trellised, I have it in a very large pot and trellised, started to bloom again. Get a little closer here. And of course the butterflies love Mexican flame vine, but it didn't bloom a lot. It bloomed some. The major blooms on this plant were in the spring. So I don't really know how, it was kind of an unusual year. I've got buds at the top. And it was an unusual year in the fact that it was so hot. And the Mexican flame vine was stunted in the heat. But no, it does have blooms. But it's just not blooming wonderfully. So it's not something I necessarily can count on, I don't think, from spring through fall. That right there on my fence is one of my garden nemesis. The squirrels have killed so many plants in my yard through the years and damaged a lot of wood on our home. They are not welcome. They're cute, but oh my goodness, they're not welcome in the yard. But as you can see, my plants are pooping out. But the one bright spot I have is in the back. And that is the Salvia madrensis, or the Forsythia sage. And that is that buttery yellow, gorgeous salvia that blooms in the fall. And if we don't have a freeze, it will bloom all throughout the winter. And this is a huge workhorse in my fall garden. I'm in the back, and this Salvia madrensis just is blooming beautifully. And like I said, this is a fall workhorse for me in the pollinator garden. Salvia is a workhorse in itself. And then this in particular is the season that it shines. And you know, it shines and it flowers, and the pollinators, especially my butterflies and hummingbirds, just visit this daily. I'm so thankful for Salvia madrensis this time of year. And the buttery yellow is really cool. There's not really a lot of great things going on in the north bed, but I do want to point out that my giant milkweed is doing well, and so is this porterweed. Love the blooms. Ah, come on. I guess it's not gonna focus well here, unfortunately. I think the lighting is just not. It's later in the afternoon. Tomorrow is, I was gonna actually tape this tomorrow, and it's supposed to be really bad weather here. You know, a couple of points to note here on this north bed. One second. Is the bush salvia is starting to get new growth, which is interesting. And this is a penta. This is a 3-year-old penta, and it's come back from the roots. It did not like the summer, but now in the fall it decided it's going to come back, and this is its 3rd year, and this is the first bloom head that I've seen on it. That is hysterical. But the plants in this bed that are doing well are the misty salvia and of course the mystic spires. What a wonderful plant to have. And then finally in this bed, as it's looking dismal, is the blue butterfly. Oops. This blue butterfly, Clerodendron, still will have a bloom here and there. There's such cheery blooms in the garden. I really have come to love and appreciate this plant. Well, thank you for joining me on my November garden tour. The poor garden has been a tad bit neglected. It's doing okay, but it's been a little bit neglected because of my new puppy. But having my new puppy has been so worth it. As you can hear, she wants to come out. But thanks for joining me. I'm going to come this way. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I hope to see you again.